Alright, so now everyone's favorite level.
So what are we gonna do first here? Do we do the casual?
Let's just play casually. I'm actually very bad at clearing the last room, so it's not going to be
take some
good.
practice too.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that very well.
Honestly, I don't remember what I used to do for the so it's
Back
I think I was a
CDS didn't exist, the skip. I usually ran to the right, naded the doorway on the doorway that you go through before you enter the other room, and those nades killed most of the enemies, and then you just hop on the tables and shoot everyone.
I had a slightly different. I threw grenades to the right there and a bit to the front, and then after running right, like just to get there, I ran back left and went through the inside, which is going to be very hard to understand what I'm talking about because it's a bit strange. But yeah, I sort of just ran around through there to try and clear all the enemies. But I'm sure there's multiple different ways to do it. Pretty similar.
I didn't create a save, so we'll just time scale that next time flying in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you come over here, you wait for your teammates, make sure you're at the door, because if you're not, they won't breach right away, which is really annoying. So just kind of wait until you see this charge get in place.
You can also shoot the enemies that are on the inside, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Because they all, I'm pretty sure they all drop dead, like when you get to a certain point. Or I know your teammates outside do. Like, this guy just falls over dead with no one around. So weird.
Also, that area can be very risky if you don't take that left doorway there. Like, if you go through the other doorway, you kind of just get blasted by everyone.
Yeah. And Survivor, does this actually save time? I don't think it does,
Yes.
right? It does?
Yeah.
The skate skip?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Because I wasn't sure because Vasquez still has to like walk all the way through. But
Yeah,
maybe
but
he
it
gets
affects
through
his
this section.
movement speed.
Oh, it does. Gotcha.
Yeah,
So,
because you get into a portion where you actually fight enemies, so he just moves faster.
Gotcha. So this jump can be a bit scary. Not this one. Getting on top of the gate isn't too bad. You can usually just stand to the left of the gate and then just kind of jump on the hinges. That's kind of how I look at it. And then from here, you want to be careful with how you strafe jump. Like, landing here is what you want. If you fall in here, you're going to need to take yourself out as quickly as you can. Because there's no way out. You can't. There's no way out of here. Yeah. Because all this stuff is...
car?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not
even
solid?
No.
None of this is solid. So yeah, there's no way out of here. To my knowledge, at least.
I
So
don't know of it either.
if you are going to go this way, like, make sure you're very confident at that jump.
And I like to bind, jump to mouse wheel down and just sort of scroll as I land on that middle fence. And then you should always make it across, because that next gap is quite a bit shorter.
Yeah. And because we didn't do the first bounce, so like there's so many enemies here that you can potentially die to. But it should be pretty free running over on recruit difficulty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can get out of that area with an RPG jump, as Courier said.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have actually had to do that one time.
So here we're actually just kind of chilling, waiting for Vasquez. So we're kind of just gonna just wait here, listen to the helicopters fly over as they eat all my frames per second. Actually, don't seem too bad right now. I'm staying around like 250, but sometimes they will just like take out like 30 FPS, especially when I'm trying to do like the CDS bounce, which we'll show in a little bit. I'm trying to remember like what I used to do for this clear, but it's not gonna look pretty.
Yeah, this is just going to be a bit messy up regardless, because it's been like, what, a year since you've done this?
Maybe more. Can't even strafe jump. I don't know if that guy needs to die. I don't think he does, because my teammates will probably get him.
Getting an AK here is definitely a good idea too.
And I
So
think
you're right where
I
you are.
should have wanted a grenade earlier, but I could be wrong there.
What I was about to say,
Yeah.
right where you were, start throwing grenades. I chucked all 4 of them into this general area.
And they can start like spawning behind you, right? Like I know these top guys are
Yeah.
pretty crucial to get, but like the enemies start spawning like in that back room area or whatever, which
Yeah,
things
they
can
go
get
to your
very messy.
door behind and to your left. They can get like 3 spawning there, I think. Which that might not be accurate directions with a little bit of delay on which one. But
So like even though I haven't practiced this room, that was decent. But definitely recommend spending some time, you know, learning the patterns there, figuring out like where you should grenade, what you should flash, how to prioritize the top enemies. I'm not going to be able to go through a perfect tutorial of that right now, but I'm sure there's some videos out there that somebody could, you know, take a look at.
those
Just to
kind of things are
mention,
very different to tutorial.
yeah, but just to mention, Vasquez was really fast there. He usually isn't that
Yeah.
close to the door, so do not take that as a norm.
Yeah, he was actually there like immediately. That was pretty crazy.
And now this is basically all just waiting. We wait here, then they get there and say some dialogue and wait some more.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need to play this whole thing through, but one thing that can happen, and I was curious if it was happening, is your teammates can get stuck on each other on this doorway sometimes. I'm not sure what happened, like what causes it, but I remember when I used to do this the old, you know, fashioned way. That would happen to me all the time. It would drive me nuts. No clue why.
Don't know about that. I guess it doesn't happen in the remaster, which is the only experience I have with this route. So,
I never got it in the original, but then again, I just didn't pay attention. So they might have gotten stuck and just auto gotten out of it.
yeah, could be.
Also, sometimes your teammates, like as the level's fading out, they'll just scream "room clear" because they get to a certain position, which is really awkward and funny at the same time. And also,
I
this
mean, the room
TV
is
is
clear.
scuffed at certain angles. It's really weird. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then Griggs starts playing some music, and yeah, it's pretty cool. We'll have to time scale through this because I'm not sitting through it. One thing that somebody might have mentioned or noticed was, sorry for that sound. Yikes. I was shooting the. I'm gonna try it here too. I was shooting the glass for the jump that we're gonna do later. It's very hard to break the glass, but you can actually shoot the window that we're gonna be jumping through later. It doesn't like
Oh my
save
God.
any time or anything, but it's pretty nerdy, like fun, cool thing you can do.
So, I am super paranoid about that because the one time I tested it, I missed the window like 8 times in a row.
Oh
after
boy.
like on jumps where I should have landed in it, I didn't, and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. But now I don't like shooting that glass. 'Cause that scares me.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was somehow a factor, which maybe we can test.
I don't think it does anything.
It should.
It's
but
probably
I'm now
placebo.
scared.
Probably. So this car here, I don't know if someone wants to kind of explain, you know, how to usually do this, but
Yeah,
So
there's a
I like-
lineup for this, but
I like to just jump and hold space so that you can walk around and find the lineup, and you'll automatically climb if you're already holding space. Already holding jump, I mean.
I don't find the part where it pops up on screen like I just showed. I kind of just like
yeah, you don't
position
need to.
myself in a certain area and then just hold space, and then when I start the climbing animation, so I don't like accidentally, let me show if I see if I can demonstrate, but like you'll climb over and go forward a bit. To counteract that, you kind of want to hold space and then like immediately like hold D or whatever is to your, you know, get to your right, and then you can look to your right as well. That way you land on this peg, and getting on this peg from here, you just jump up on the roof, and that's pretty much it. That climb can sometimes be very obnoxious, especially if you're trying to go too fast. So if you're, you know, oftentimes like going over like that, just slow it down and just try to take it easy, and you should be fine. But it may take some practice for sure, like figuring out where you need to be. Also, FOV, like my lineup might look different from yours, so kind of just find what works for you. And then this car bounce, like there are a bunch of different ways of attack. There's like straight at it if you're comfortable with that. I go like kind of a right strafe. I think Kluger goes kind of like at this angle. The main thing that we want to do is just get somewhere along this part of the car, If you hit,
And I think
oh, go
I
ahead.
think it's
So,
the top one.
I think you want to land in the top like half of the window. If you land lower down, it won't bounce you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm thinking of the other car where it's kind of like the side panel, like back of
Yeah,
it that you're
it's
looking
kind of
for.
where the windows meet the roof, I
Yeah.
guess, where you want to land.
Yeah. So kind of just something like that. That's how I do it with right strafe. You want to be careful when doing this bounce though, because if you fall down here, you basically have to restart or take yourself out, which is not good. So be careful when you are doing this bounce. Also, that is probably going to happen to you when you first do these. In that case, I didn't go far enough, I don't think. So
Yeah.
you may just need to get a little bit better strafe, and then it should look like that. So there's also this area of attack, which I am not practiced at, so forgive me if... Okay, never mind. It's actually free going left strafe. I see... Never mind.
I feel like left strafe works better. That might just be me, but maybe I just get more distance with it. But it
Yeah.
feels so much more free than right strafe.
Always right strafe, so I don't... But I do kind of rotate myself in the air, so it's kind of a left strafe, but yeah, I start from the right.
Yeah, all I want to do is be left strafing when I hit the bounce, and that feels
Yeah.
like it works more consistently.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It does flow like right into like where you need to be sprinting too, versus the other one,
Yeah.
like you're kind of like changing directions when you land, whereas like left you're
Mhm.
going immediately into where you need to be, which is really good. So, but it does take a second to get to this position too. So like kind of give or take, what
It's
you want to
personal
do.
preference kind of thing.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
some madmen go straight at it, which is, I don't know. That's one way to do it. I mean, it works.
It worked.
So whatever works. One caveat though is if you are planning on doing the CDS bounce and you do the first one, you're locked in. Like there's no going back now, because what happens is Vasquez is still at that first building, so he's never gonna breach it, and yeah, he's not gonna make it to the second section. So you're soft locked essentially, and once you've crossed over, you need to just go as fast as you can to the second bounce, taking this sort of path here.
Yeah, I remember you doing your safe strat, so to speak.
Yes. So there's an alternative strat where, like, let's say you're not feeling super confident on this bounce that we're about to go through. You can still clear that first building and, do everything normally. And then when you're waiting for Vasquez to get to the broadcast station, you can actually attempt to do the tree elevator and bounce that we're going to go over. So it's like kind of your free moment to, experiment and get some attempts in. And actually, in my one of my, like, it was like my third place time, I got it like second try while waiting for Vasquez. So I ended up saving like, I don't know, maybe like a minute or so. So it ended up
Yeah,
like being worth it going for
yeah,
it.
if you do everything perfectly, I think it only loses like 50 seconds compared to the whole skip.
Yeah.
So
Which is still
it's
2
definitely
minutes
worth. Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, definitely. And this part is also preference, but I highly encourage anyone who's not comfortable with the bounce that we're going to go over to come up here and grab this rocket. And the way you do that, this strafe can sometimes be tricky for new runners. If you're not very good at strafing, you can't really just jump straight at this. I think you can sometimes get it to work. Also, that grenade. Jesus.
It's a hard time jump, really.
Yeah, so you need to be somewhat confident with strafes in order to get this. And honestly, you shouldn't even be bothering with this rocket launcher if you can't do a good strafe off this building over here for the bounce.
Remember to take the M9, by the way.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah,
don't be me, and make sure you grab your M9. It's gonna help a lot with strafing and also lining up. But again, it's not completely necessary. Like you
Yeah,
can still do it with the RPG. It's just a little bit trickier. But yeah, so essentially what you want to do for the tree elevator, we do a sprint ellie, which I don't know if anyone has like the science or the technical explanation behind why exactly it works.
It's the same as being directly under the edge, like how a regular elevator works, but the sprint is standing you up instead of uncrouching. And so you're sliding over slowly enough that you stand all the way up to the top of the thing before you get out of the elevator range.
Yeah, so you basically have an auto elevator in a way, since it stands you up all the time, or tries to.
Gotcha,
That's
gotcha.
why they're a bit easier, because you don't have to be in the exact right spot and then uncrouch. You can sort of slide in there.
Yeah. And so basically, the way you want to line up for this is I personally like to try to set myself up for the good spot, like where you need to be early on, instead of like just running directly at the tree and then, finding your position. The main thing that we're going to use is like our guiding point is this sort of brown looking dot or this brown star. We're going to be using that to focus on this one to the left, this
Can
gray
we talk about
star here.
textures real quick?
Oh, yes, that's a good point. So in the options, we want to make sure that our texture settings are set to normal across the board here. So you'll need to switch over to manual and then select normal. And then you should
Yeah,
have the textures that I have here.
the ones that really matter are texture resolution and normal map resolution. The specular map can be whatever, but yeah, everything else should be set to normal. So the top two options.
Gotcha. Yeah, if you don't see what I have here, it's probably because those settings need to be adjusted. And yeah, so once you're here, it's essentially just finding this brown star, and then the very left one is kind of what we're looking for here. Because essentially, what this point is like the corner of this invisible barrier around this tree, and nothing. And then what we're doing is, like you guys already kind of explained it, but we're trying to line up our crosshair, so our vertical crosshair with like sort of the line down the middle of this star. And once those are lined up simultaneously as our crosshair, you go straight up the Ellie. So this is kind of like a zoomed in look of what it looks like. But yeah, so essentially what you want to be doing is holding sprint and then press forward. And if you're in the right position, you should go straight up. But finding that right position is just as important, and you kind of
Yeah.
have to wiggle to get to that spot. Or strafe. You can use a strafe key too, which I have on my mouse button 3, which you can see on my mouse. It's I'm pressing the strafe key, which it's not even something you need to worry about like typing into console or anything. It's literally in the controls. Controls. Is it?
It's outside of options.
Yeah, it always confuses me too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, strafe. So it's actually mouse button 5 for me, but essentially you hold down whatever that button is, and then how you move your mouse around will actually change your positioning for your character. So it's up to you, like if you prefer to line it up with strafe, which can be more helpful for some people, or if you're someone like me who likes to sort of like hold sprint and W and kind of just like wiggle like this until you get into a good spot, and then you kind of just let the momentum carry you until you hit the elevator.
Yeah, something to mention. If you just kind of sprint out of it, you have too wide of an angle, so you're looking too far to the left.
Yeah. So if you start going up, or let me see if I can demo that. So like if that happens where you like kind of like go up for a second, then you slide down, it's because you started looking too left too early. So like that, for example. And you kind of like, as soon as your crosshair is like where it should be, like perfectly lined up with this like gray star, that's when you just want to let go of your mouse pretty much. Like you don't need to bother touching it. And usually you'll be able to get it. Also be careful like holding forward once you do hit it, because you will fall straight down. So for me, I kind of like to look immediately like to the right and then hold forward. So I like kind of go on top of this tree and then just run down over here. And then now the fun begins. I don't know if anyone wants to kind of explain like what like the whole from start to finish what the jump consists of, but it's basically like a bunch of little pieces together.
You can start from sort of anywhere. I think a lot of people start from different positions, but basically we're just jumping into that red-brown car on the left there and getting a bounce, sort of like off the blue car, but from much higher up, so we get much more height on the other side.
Yeah.
And then we added an RPG to get even more height after that.
Yeah, and we're aiming for preferably like somewhere around this point, right here. Maybe even like even more towards the back.
So the further back to the car you get, the easier the jump is going to be, the distance.
Also, I half broke that window from the whatchamacallit.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we want to hit for this spot right here. Go ahead and fully break that and then create a new save.
And
So
you want to be crouched when you land in the window, otherwise you
Yes,
won't get
so
in.
this is the other part where you want to crouch while you strafe.
yeah, and Kluger was mentioning it, but like there are tons and tons of different, ways to approach this. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just like what you're good at, what you've practiced. How can you hit it the most consistently? Because this is the hardest trick in the run to pull off. It's not that hard once you figure it out, but it is one of the most intimidating things. And if you're able to master this, you're able to. I think it saves around was it like 4 minutes or so, maybe 350.
3.
Oh, is it 3?
It's if you do it perfectly, it's sort of a bit over 3. That's if you get everything first try. But I kind of round it down to 3 because you usually don't get everything first try.
Yeah, very true. And it's usually the first. Like after you get really good at this bounce, it's usually the first one that trolls you. It's very
Yes.
cruel like that because that's the one you don't practice really. So, this one can destroy you. But for me, so for my personal lineup, I like to look at this line in the parking lot here, and I use that kind of just as like my guide. And there's this invisible floor here, and what I'll usually do is start my strafe or my spot that I want to start running right as soon as you go up this little curve. So I'm gonna create a save there, and I'm gonna go ahead and do like a counter strafe. So it's gonna send me right a bit, and then as soon as I like start going right, I'm gonna immediately go left, and on my way down to the car, I'm going to actually start holding W and D to start angling myself to the right. Because as you can see, like if you were to go at a straight line at it from here, the bounce is actually going to try to favor you towards that left window. So
it's
you want to be careful with that.
It's very important to switch to the right strafe before you land on the car. Get that momentum going that way. That makes getting to the window much easier than switching after you bounce. Just like that.
Yeah. I'm just going to do a few of these without the rockets just to show like what the keybinds are looking like. Also,
yeah, and how much the rocket helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it depends
can
on like what lineup you do, but some lineups are way easier at getting the bounce without or getting to the window without using a rocket. But yeah, it's just kind of what you're used to, what you like to do. But yeah, you can see like we're hitting the bounce pretty consistently, but we're not getting the height needed to get to the window. So that's where the rocket launcher is going to come into play. You can get it without the rocket with very good movement. However, the rocket makes it that much easier. Let me just try and get this really quick without it.
I probably should have had it. I feel like that window missed for no reason.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes. It's not super common, but you can just miss the window when you should have landed in it.
Also, this
It's
angle
very
that
high.
I'm approaching from, it's a lot harder than some of the other angles that are trying to do it without the RPG. So I might not be able to get it, and that's okay.
This just makes the bounce more consistent, your angle that is, but
There you go.
you usually don't get the height needed.
Yeah, so it's that Blues lineup sort of trades, gives you more consistency at hitting the bounce and makes the distance to the window more difficult. That's just what you prefer.
So if you are incorporating the RPG, the timing for the RPG is pretty important, but there's a solid margin of error, I think.
Really good, actually.
Yeah, I like to try and shoot it around the time where I'm about to hit it. Like that was even a little early, but I managed to live and the car didn't blow up and kill me, so that's good.
There was so much extra height there. You landed well above the window.
Yeah, the RPG helps out loads. Also, what helps out is where you're landing. So if I land on the bounce here, it might be easier to hit it, but I'm that much farther away from the window. So If you're not making it far enough, then you need to try and hit further back on the car, like so. Also, I love how I shot just the bottom part of this window out. So you just need the pistol, and then once you go on that, you can shoot both the top and the bottom of this window, and then kind of just prone through if you just shoot the bottom, or just crouch through. Either way. But I'm gonna show the other lineups. Kluger, you usually stand like, is this about right?
Yeah, wall run on that and then step up on the thing. I don't wall run on it, I guess. Push against it.
Okay, so that's an example of you getting enough height and the game still hating you and shoving you down.
Yeah, you made that by a ton. So like the distance like to the window here is easier. So you're making it by even more. So it's just a little bit more difficult to hit the bounce.
There we go.
System.
I should just learn that way. I think if you guys are gonna learn this, probably start with this, because there's a lot of good things that are happening. Like there's no variable of like not going in a good line to your strafe, because you're literally like being held up against the wall. And then your timing for the starting of the counter strafe, like the really quick counter strafe, which you don't even need with this lineup, right? Like you could just go straight into it.
Yeah.
I stand there and just do a left, like just a muscle memory left strafe pretty much.
Yeah, you could, depending on like what you're comfortable with, you can just literally just strafe directly left like that, which is, and that's an example of like, this lineup is a lot easier with out the RPG, because the line of attack is a little bit sharper. And
you're just covering
easier
less distance overall, basically.
So that's another one. I don't even want to try Cam's method.
That one's not for me too.
So Cam, Shady Cam, who's actually the one who found the tree elevator, he does it from up here without an RPG, and it's very challenging because like the strafe that you have to do, you don't have a lot of running room, and you're also like going at it from this very, very sharp line. So it's very difficult to hit this. I'm gonna try it for a minute.
Most of the time it just slides you down like that.
Yeah, you need more speed at the car to get the bounce. Like you need enough in that direction. Which is just, this is like the full extreme of trading like bounce consistency for just making the window every time, because you get the extra height too.
There we go. Wait, nope. Oh god.
Oh,
dude, it's so hard. I want to get it once, but it's not for everybody. Not for the faint of heart.
Definitely not for me.
Yeah.
You probably don't even need to switch to a right strafe before you land on the car here, because I think that would it probably wouldn't even be possible with that.
Yeah, it destroys everything.
I give up. So yeah, there's that. If you want to learn that, I mean, good to you. And there's also like kind of a direct line approach like this as well, if you're more comfortable with that. But for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of this one, and I'm not obviously very practiced at it. Versus like I've actually done Kluger's one before. Okay, it's not that bad. But yeah, it's just kind of like you need to get to this spot at a certain angle, and then get ready to position yourself and start aiming, start strafing or holding WD towards the window before the bounce.
Does anyone know how Bongo does his bounce? Since Obo asked in chat or asked us to do Bongo's variation.
Because he did it for an IL, so he was just running in a straight line.
Yeah, because he's
route.
coming from. God, that man is crazy. Like, so there's an old strat where the IL strat is actually quicker, where you grab the RPG, you come up here, you walk around this, and then you do this either very, for me, challenging strafe jump, or you can do a rocket jump, which I'm also very, very bad at. But essentially you get over to this roof, and then you have to do this other pretty hard bounce that I've only honestly done like a couple times. Also, this angle is very bad.
This is the hardest bounce on this level.
It's just so precise. It's terrible. Like it's not even like, yeah. It's, you can overdo it, underdo it. You just have to land in exactly the right place. It's just more window.
There you go.
But yeah, Bungo doesn't really have a lineup. He just lands over here and then runs at it, and sort of just goes from the fastest point he can and makes it.
He doesn't RPG here, right?
No, he doesn't. He uses the RPG to blow the window open, which I
Oh,
don't even
that's
know if
so
it's faster.
swag. That's
It's
crazy.
a flex though.
So like you can hit the bounce, but like this is still a very, very hard trick to do. And then that's not even like this was hard for me, but there's a way to RPG jump this pretty easy if you're good at getting the timing down on that, which I'm not, so I'm not gonna even bother. But then from here, yeah, what does he do? He just like kind of just
You just
like
do
from
like a
here
strafe from where you
almost.
land, and then yeah, pretty much from there it just goes.
Oh, so that's an example of what can happen if you shoot the RPG too early. But he doesn't even, shoot the RPG. So one thing that we should probably mention is when you're flying over towards the window, see how I'm like kind of slowly moving my mouse instead of just like flinging it across my screen. And that is
It's not
because you need to go slow in order to carry yourself further and quicker.
it's not like CS style strafing where you like change your own direction. You're sort of trying to track your velocity through, or track your momentum through the air, like with your angle and movement, to like keep getting the most acceleration. If that makes any sense. It's a bit hard to explain.
Makes sense to me.
But yeah, we can demonstrate the velocity meter here. Once Blue is basically at his peak of momentum, he has maybe 420 around that. When usually we strafe and we get up to 390 if it's a really good strafe. So
And I'm
there's
probably
a
like,
lot of momentum gain.
yeah. And I was gonna say I'm probably shooting the RPGs a little early here, but it's pretty hard to kill yourself with it. Probably for safety, you want to like start shooting the RPG as soon as you hit the bounce. That's probably a good habit to get into.
The only way the car is gonna blow up, by the way, is if you shoot the RPG directly at it, so it physically hits the car.
Right.
That's what kills you, because the car explosion does more damage.
Was there
Yeah.
anything else for the bounce that we should cover, or should we kind of just like?
No, just go
Not that I
to
can
the
think
end,
of.
I think.
Because we didn't do the IL strat, but I don't think that's like it's not a full game strat ever. Like there's no reason to, and
Yeah.
it's only a couple seconds faster. It's really not a big deal.
So you'll know you're good when you hear those, jets fly over, and then you hear Vasco say "Do it," and after a certain amount of time, you should start to hear Griggs's music come on, and your game will also kind of like hitch and freeze at a
Also,
certain point.
a side note here, when
There
the
it
game
is.
freezes, you want to have as much FPS as possible.
Oh,
It gets out of the freeze earlier.
did not know
Oh,
that. I actually had a feeling like I thought that might be the case, but I didn't get around to testing it or like asking anyone about it, so I just forgot.
Yeah, it is
uncapped
the
FPS
case.
for
I
the
tested
win.
it out a few days ago.
Cool, that's good to know. Because I did see someone, I think it was Bongo's run actually, where he got out of the freeze shockingly quickly. I was kind of weirded out by that, but that makes sense.